good afternoon, good wherever the hell you may be. As you can tell, I am not in my New York City apartment, though I do fantasize about having a luxurious amount of space quite like this, but what is the probability of that happening? Who knows? This is maybe not even my own shirt. It could be my mother's, but you know what? It is giving academic, it is giving philosopher, it is giving school girl realness. It is giving this hairstyle is not cutting off blood flow to the brain. This is my mom and father's house. I am visiting the fam upstate. No regrets, no prisoners. Love where I'm at right now. With visiting my parents, I do have the beauty of having some time to myself, so I figured that I would wrap up the books that I read in both March and April. So, I am 2 coffees deep, no food, so let's see what goes on right now. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. 9 books in 2 months, which is great. I'm definitely not reading at a pace that I'm used to. I don't know. I've been a little bit out of it. I've been really, really busy, which is great, but that kind of takes a toll on the reading life, you know? But that's fine. I'll pick that up after. So the first book that I read was Black Swans by Ives Babitz. I read this to accompany my California trip. Lots of people suggested the old Babs as a great California companion, and I wholeheartedly agree. This was a fantastic book. This is taken as more of a fictional spin on a very real life. It's just short stories about Babitz's friends and acquaintances that she met along the way in her kind of uproarious life in California. Black Swans primarily focused on 90s to early 2000s, I believe, so it was really interesting to see her kind of reflect on who she knew in the 60s and 70s and how they had developed into the 90s. I thought that the writing was intelligent, I thought that it was funny, and I thought that Ives Babitz would be someone who I would love to partay with. Love a good party girl memoir. Love a good party girl who can also do both. She can do both, and she owns it. This wealthy, uninhibited behavior and its hedonist lifestyles in the most fun way possible. So, love that book. Thank you all who suggested the Babs. Can't wait to read more of her. Definitely right up my alley. So after that, I had now returned back to New York. Concrete Jungle, Wet Dream Tomato. I am trying to slowly tackle my TBR. I'm really trying to not purchase any new books. If they fall into my hands, that's something I can't control, so I just have to go with it. I picked this book, So Long, See You Tomorrow, by William Maxwell, out of my TBR, trying to kind of chip away, get the ice pick out and break it so that the avalanche of books falls onto me. Okay, this is following a family history through the eyes of an outsider. So there was this murder that went on, and the narrator was a close friend of the child of the murderer. It's just kind of chipping away at the hypothesis of what was the reasoning behind the murder, and it takes a long time. I think that this book was 150 or 130 pages, and for about 120 of them, you're really taking your time to try to get into the story. There's murder, secrets, there's affairs, there's all of this concoction to make an amazing, alluring story, but it just falls flat. I think that Maxwell's writing is really great. He can paint a picture of characters really, really well, but I think just the catapulting of the storyline never really took off. Woof! After that, I read Lot, Stories by Bryan Washington. This was my first voyage into the Bryan Washington world. I was excited to jump on this boat. Now, this was just kind of a field of stories all centering around Houston life and this lot of land and apartments that are kind of the epicenter of how these characters move. There is kind of a main vein of a story where it's following this young boy and all of his family and kind of the subsidiary lives that branch off of that. I thought that that was really clever. I thought that a couple of these stories were standouts, the ones that kind of leaned more into the fantastical, but some of them I just felt were very repetitive. I loved the way that the characters were decoded and understood by Washington. It just felt like everything was leading up and then just kind of plateaued. Didn't quite do it for me. And I know that tons of people love this book, and I think that it deserves all of that respect and praise. But for me, it just wasn't what I needed at that time in my life. The fourth thing that I read, it's actually the play that I'm working on in Upstate, which is part of the reason why I'm here right now. It's All in the All in the Timing by David Ives. I've never read anything by David Ives, but this is funny. This is about 5 or 6 plays I'm performing myself. They're all hilarious. It's all these meditations on wordplay and Kafka and Trotsky and the author's hatred of Philadelphia. If you want kind of a lighthearted play, this is definitely something that you can check out. Check it out. You can do it. I read Catch the Rabbit. This was part of a vlog that I did where I bought books based on my subscribers' suggestions. I liked it, though I think I could have liked it more. This was a post-Bosnian War novel, which I'm already completely immersed into that world and love what this is standing for. This follows 2 girls. One has kind of divided herself from Bosnia and the other one is still living in Bosnia. And they kind of reconvene and come together over the tragic backstory of one of the girls' brothers coming back into their lives in a way. I love the reflections on a past life. I love the reflections on childhood friendships and how they shape us, and how in childhood you seem to be so merged together, and there's this adherence to trying to maintain that into adult life. And I thought that that was beautiful. And I also thought that it was just a really great fixation into trauma, and how some people are able to pick up the pieces from that, and some people are totally blind to trying to fix themselves and just have this kind of calloused version stuck inside of them. I think especially with, you know, the war that's going on in Ukraine, I think that this was a fascinating read to read in this kind of plot of life right now. So I really enjoyed it. Also, I thought that the cover design was stunning, beautiful, and loved everything that that graphic designer was leaning towards. I just think that I wasn't as gripped by this novel as I was by S, for example, which was a Bosnian novel that I read last year and completely bowed down to and loved. And then I had Lonnie by Max Porter, which was also suggested by subscribers. I loved this book. This was exactly what I needed to read right now, and it's making me question a lot of my choices. And I just think that I'm evolving as a reader, or this is just what I need. It's catering around the world of a young boy named Lanny. He's very gifted, he's very precocious. His life is told through vignettes of the adults around him. It's all about towns, and it's all about gossip, and it's all about these ostracized people and how they're very kind of at the heart of this life. It's all kind of playing into the fallacies of our words, and I really loved this. I thought it was so smart. I thought it was so different. A24 is definitely gonna sink their teeth into this, or their claws into this at some point. I am sure. I called it here first. Happened here. Will be going to A24 screens, babe. After this, I read Work, Sex and Rugby by Lewis Davies. This is a Welsh novel given to me by the Welshman himself, Katie Ciaran. And this was fun. I liked this more than I thought I would, especially because it's a book that I had no idea what I was getting into, but it really just circles around work, sex, and rugby. It follows this boy. He's about 20 years old. I should say, like, adult. He's 20 years old. He's not a boy. His name is also Lewis, so I think it is semi-autobiographical. He's just kind of navigating the life in, again, a small UK town. It's just kind of exploring this bleakness, this idea of just kind of living for work, sex, and rugby. How he saturated in this life, but he's also growing. He's such a malleable character, and he thinks that this is what life is all about, but he can also see and forecast his life past that. I thought the writing was really, really smart. There was some really hilarious moments in it. A lot of the characters I thought were written in a way that you can see them formed right in front of you. I don't think it's gonna be my favorite book, but I overall really loved how it's just an exploration into this small town, and being from a small town, I can empathize with these characters so much, and I liked where it was going. I liked what we were working with here. The most recent vlog that I did, My Brilliant Friend, I have a whole vlogage on it. We know this. It's been seen, it's been heard, but let's touch upon it anyway. This was my first dive into the Ferrante world. Now I'm in it. Will I drown or will I come to the surface? Who knows? Who knows what's going to happen with the Ferrante? This follows two girls and it's kind of dealing with a lot of the social dynamics and the politics of 1950s Italy, and it's told through the backbone of these two girls' stories, primarily focusing on Elena, who is the narrator, looking into the life of her best friend. Lana? What's her best friend's name? Leela. What's her best friend's name? Oh my god. I'm forgetting it. It's this great Bildungsroman. It ends when the girls are about 16 years old. One of them is kind of maturing much more rapidly than the other one, and it's balancing this idea of youth while still branching into extreme adulthood. I think it's beautiful. And of course, anything set in Italy is going to be amazing. You know, you have fiats, you have small towns, you have beautiful wine, beautiful food. What more do you expect? It's like going on a vacation in a novel, which is exactly what I need right now. And the last book, and the only one that I currently have, is Her Body and Other Parties. I knew that I would be able to finish this really quickly. I found this on the side of the road in pristine condition, and I figured that I would read this before I'm about to jump into my next book, which feels like it's going to take 100 years to read. This was great. I really enjoyed this. I know that people either love or hate this, and they kind of prefer In the Dream House to this more, but I was really excited to get into Machado's fiction. And this was her first published novel, I believe. I thought that this was so interesting. Some of the stories are much stronger than others. One of the standalone stories for me was where she takes Law and Order and creates this sort of surreal, fantastical take on it, told through vignettes of episodes. And I thought that that was so clever. It kind of dips into crime as well, which is also something I love. Love a good crime subplot. I thought that was so witty. If anybody's read this, the first short story deals with a woman having a ribbon across her throat. And that's definitely a short story that I've read before, right? Like, this is her interpretation of that short story. And I think it's a short story in Scary Stories We Tell in the Dark, if that's real. But if anybody's read or heard of a story where a girl has a ribbon across her throat and she can't take it off, let me know in the comments below, because that is definitely something I've read before. Right? Also, there's a bird, like, attacking another bird right outside. If I look a little distracted, my mind is absolutely elsewhere. But this is great. Deals with a lot of feminine identity, feminine bodies, and how they kind of land in this world. Machado can write. Holy shite. They can write. So, that's what we're dealing with. That's it. If you can guess the next book that I'm going to be reading, let me know. I definitely dropped a hot clue for you. So let me know. Let me know what you read this month that you thought was fabulous. And also, let's switch it up. Let me know a book that you read this month that you hated. I want to stir up some controversy in the comments. So lots of homework to do. Lots of things to comment on. You guys are wonderful, you're fabulous, but you should already know this. You should know it. Anyway. Bye!